Shalom, shalom, Yisrael, Yehonathan, Da, we with you here, humbly so, Yahweh for Christians. The video didn't go through on the broadcast yesterday on the 24th of October. So this is the 25th of October in my home office. And we are doing Torah portion number 49, Teitzei, when you go. So this is the first video in a while. They're having a lot of difficulties. I hope they get it rectified in about a week or so. Yahweh has blessed me with this knowledge and the love of his Torah and the love of instructions, but I have not been touched and blessed and anointed with technology. And I'm looking forward for the day when Yahweh wipes out all technology. For now, that's what we have and that's what we're going to use. Now, last week, talking about in Shoftim, that Yahweh talked about there is a universal dictum for all nations to set up laws, their own laws. This is why, believe it or not, Yahweh is justified in judging the whole world, because Yahweh only has a covenant with Yisrael. So why is he judging other peoples? Why are they being rained down with fire when they didn't have no covenant with Yahweh, but they still violated their own laws because of the so-called Noahide laws have been in place since the beginning of man. And one of them is to set up a just government. And then we talked about in Shoftim how the witnesses against someone who breaks the laws have to be the first to lay hands on the judgment. And it seems gruesome, but what Yahweh is trying to teach us is that sin is gruesome, that sin is heavy, and we really don't realize how much we've hurt Yahweh, how much he has gone through to reconcile us back to him. Sin hurts, but we're so clean and clinical from it. We go up and throw up a prayer, and we might, be a little sad, but his son died violently on a tree for us. And before that time, countless amount of animals were slaughtered for our sins. So Yahweh is trying to teach us, let us feel the heaviness and the weight of sin. And then in Shoftim last week, Yahweh says, you're not to set a foreigner over you. It is a sin to have a man, especially a woman, over top of you, ruling over you, a goel, a man, one of your brethren, an akim. An ak is supposed to be ruling over you. Yahweh Shua is a goel. He's a redeemer, genetic to us. The word redeemer in English does not have that connotation of being someone related to the one being redeemed. But the Ibarit word goel says that is a genetic connection to the one being redeemed. It is very important. And then we talked about how there are no more prophets today. A lot of information I give, you have not seen other places. You cannot Google it. That does not make me a prophet. I am not. Prophets all spoke in Ibarit. They all had Ibarit minds. They prophesied in Lashon HaKodesh. No one out here speaking English nor any other tongue can claim themselves being a prophet speaking in a language of sin and slavery. So there are no prophets today. What makes one wiser than others is having discernment, because prophecy, the testimony of Yahweh Shua, is the ruach of prophecy. And the discernment of the times makes one prophetic, because you discern the patterns of times. Now, in Torah portion number 49, Teitzei, when you go, it is found in Deuteronomy 21, verse 10 through Deuteronomy 25, verse 19. And in this Torah portion, we're going to talk about a lot of miscellaneous laws, such as the Levirate marriage and rebellious son. But, people call these miscellaneous laws. We're going to see how deep those so-called miscellaneous laws are and how they mean something and are impactful to us now and for the future. If they don't mean anything for us today, it's irrelevant. If we can't talk about these Torah portions and make them real to us in our life, for us to understand Yahweh Shua, then it's irrelevant. In all the book, Yahweh wants us, he's talking about himself. He wants us to know about him. I would love people to sit and want to learn about me if they really wanted to, not argue and debate, but want to understand me. Who wouldn't you want someone to sit and hear what you have to say about yourself without judging you? So this, and you would entreat that. You would invite that. To have someone who honestly wants to hear what you have to say and understand you. And that's what these 12 portions are. The Yahweh is the X-Man. They all point to him. Now, the thing about these Torah portions, I know most people, that's not the most popular thing. But we're going to get to some more popular things. I want to share a story I saw on social media from a rabbi. I'm going to make it brief. It was this rabbi and his wife who tried for decades to have a child. They finally had a son. The mother did not want to send him off. This is a few hundred years ago. Didn't want him to send him off to a rabbi to learn the Torah because her only child. They're older now. She wanted him to stay at home. So hey, the father was a diamond dealer. He was a jeweler. He could afford to have a rabbi live in his home and teach his son the Torah. So that's what he did. After 20 years, the rabbi says, you know what? I brought your son as far as I can bring him. At this point, if I continue staying here, I'm just taking your money. So fine, be that as may. He gave him another nice bonus, sent him on his way. And now his son was not a rabbi, of course, but he knew the Torah enough to move on. And he wanted to celebrate and just go out into the neighborhood, something he had never done before. His father said, okay, well, be careful. You've never really been out before like this. Just go down to the market down the street and just walk around and look at the people and people watch, see how things go. So that's what the son did. He went down the street to the local outdoor market, and then he got thirsty. He wanted a lemonade. He went to the lemonade stand, asked for a lemonade. The man said $4. And he said, oh, I didn't bring any money, but I can give you some knowledge, some simple knowledge that will benefit you from the Torah. And the man took back the lemonade and like, this lemonade is $4. You can keep that Torah stuff for yourself. It does no good for me. So now the young man's feelings are hurt. And he's like, wait a minute. 20 years of all this beautiful knowledge and I can't get a cup of lemonade? What good is it? What good is learning all this if I can't get a cup of lemonade? He tells us to his father. His father says, I tell you what. You go back to that same market. Go back to that same lemonade stand and offer him this diamond. See how much he'll pay for that. So he does that, goes and the lemonade man looks at the diamond. He says, wow, this is beautiful. I'll give you $500 for it. And he said, wow, $500? And his father did tell him to check out a few places. So he went to a few other stands in the area, and each time, each vendor offered more and more money. One person even offered like $1,500. He's like, wow, he rushed back home. Dad, this must be a very beautiful diamond. That lemonade man offered me $500, but someone else offered me up to $1,500. He said, really? Tell you what, now I want you to go across town to the diamond district and show him this same diamond. Go to a few stands and see what you can get. He did that. The lowest offer he got was $50,000. And he got up to 6 figures of an offer for that one jewel. He comes back across town home. Dad, what kind of diamond is this? This is valuable. I got offered 6 figures for this. He says, son, that's how the Torah is. You got some people out here who have a kind of mind that cannot receive the wealth and the riches of the Torah. They don't have that kind of ruach. They don't have that kind of spirit. They don't have that kind of mindset. And there's a waste to give this knowledge to them. But you got others who understand beauty and value, and they can appreciate the Torah. And I'm hoping here, and I do my broadcast on WFBR 1590 AM on Sundays from 1 to 2. And when I do the videos, that I'm getting diamonds who are following me. And I must have diamonds. I only have a few, maybe 15. I know I have 5 faithful, maybe 15. And I hope you do spend more time watching the professionally edited version of the YouTube channel offerings that I have. Because when I do the prophetic, they come about a week later because they have to be professionally edited. But when I send the video clips and the pictures, it helps to give a better understanding, I'm hoping, of what the lesson was that day. But I am looking at you, my few followers, as diamonds. You're not lemonade minded. You understand the value of what I'm putting out here and what Yahweh has for me to teach my people. You're going to see what I'm talking about when I go over this today. That's why I wanted to bring up that story. Now, as we go, let's go start off at Deuteronomy. Let's go to chapter 21, verse 10 of Deuteronomy. It says, when you go out, Teitzei. So one of the things about war, that you get especially back in these days, you get the booty. You get the booty in the war. The winner gets the spoils. Now, in doing this, a lot of times the men bring back women. Now, Yahweh has a law in place when a soldier or a warrior finds a beautiful woman he would like to take for his wife. Now, let's be mindful, remembering the previous Torah portions, that there are some rules in place even before this. No local nations were to have anything brought back. Remember, these were giants and they were tainted. Even the animals had to be slayed because the animals were violated sexually. These people had mixed genes with fallen angels and all this kind of stuff. So these rules of the beautiful woman does not apply to the local nations that Yisrael was to take over. Everything had to be slain there. This applies for nations far out who were not tainted with fallen angel seed and who did not mix with animals. And the second rule is that these women had to be virgins. They could not take a man's wife, kill him, and take his wife and the children. They had to be a virgin woman. And so this is important. The nation comes through the woman, not through the man. The legalese goes through the man. But a child is what the mother is. If the mother is Gentile, it doesn't matter what the father is. He could be Hebrew, the child is a Gentile. The mother is a Hebrew, doesn't matter what the father was. The child is a Hebrew. Now, the mother can be a foreigner as long as she converts over to Yahweh's Torah and agrees to his covenant, then she is grafted in. And all the children follow behind her. Now, because of passion, and remember I talked about Isha, and how these two Hebrew words are so close. As a matter of fact, if you go through Strong's Concordance, and if you look at Numbers 801, 802, and I'm going to add a new one, 803, to show you the life and the relationship of the Hebrew language that is missed in English. So the word for fire is Eshah. The word for wife is Isha. But here's another one I want to add. The word for foundation is Eshua. So you got three words all next to each other, very close. And remember, I told you that Yahweh has said hundreds of times that he wanted an offering sent to him made by fire, made by Isha. Now, it seems like, why would Yahweh say that? We know all offerings have to be burned, but why do he have to keep mentioning over and over again? Remember the law of repetition. The law of repetition. The law of repetition means, hello, wake up. I'm trying to teach something here. I want you to understand something here. If he keeps saying that, he's meaning something. And what he's talking about is this is passion. You're going to serve me and worship me with passion like you do your Isha and your tent, your wife. Now you're out here in the bed of Yah, you're worshiping, you're offering sacrifices. You do it with a fiery passion because we have a relationship here just like with the woman you had that you married back at your tent. Now, the new word I dropped on you is the word for foundation, Eshua. And now see how close that is? And what is a marriage but the foundation relationship for the Torah? Isn't that deep? See, you, my diamonds, appreciate that knowledge I just dropped. You have the Ish, which is the man, by the way. The Isha, which is the wife. Having an Isha, fiery passion relationship, which is the Ishau, the foundation of receiving the Torah. Isn't that beautiful? All 4 words now. You got the man, the woman, fire, and foundation. 4 words that serves as ground zero for receiving the Torah and teaching it to the nations, to live by it. Remember, the Torah brings us to Yahweh. It leads us to him. We're going to talk about that some more later. Now, going on in these Torah portions, we see that Esau, remember, Esau was supposed to get the birthright. He had the birthright, which means he would have the priestly covenant, the priestly rights and all that, and his brother tricked him out of it. Now, one of the things the accused likes to say is this was unfair, this was not right, this was not right. But it is fair, because he gave it up willingly. This is what he wanted to do. Now, was it fair to Eve that Hasatan tricked her? He started it. The accuser is the first one to start the trickeration when he deceived Mother Hawa in the Garden of Eden while he was swinging on a tree like an orangutan. So it still counted. Y'all didn't say, nope, that's not fair. You tricked her. She could stay in the garden. No, they had to leave. She sinned. She had to die, even though she was tricked. No different. Jacob was tricked. He didn't want to marry Leah. He still had to marry her and had ended up getting 8 of the 12 sons through her directly or through her maiden. So it counts. So it's not about being tricked, but it still counts. Now, let's talk about this rebellious son. This rebellious son is something that a lot of people read and they think is kind of harsh and it's not right, that Yahweh is so mean and vengeful. And this is not the case. If you look at all the particulars and the details and all the laws and the parameters of the rebellious son, you will see that it's highly, highly unlikely that any son got this judgment. The son ends up getting stoned, he gets hung, all this kind of stuff, and the parents have to even lead out in it. Now, so if Yahweh made such a strict rule about a rebellious son, it must mean something bigger than just that. And of course we know it does. What it points to is his son. Just like when Abraham was asked to sacrifice Yitzhak on the altar, and he did not have to. But Yahweh had to see that this man was going to choose him over his own son. He saw, actually, Abraham needed to see that he had a heart. The same kind of heart that can go out and defend his nephew Lot with 300 men and destroy 5 kings. That kind of man who could fight like that, with that kind of strength and passion, can still have the same heart to sacrifice his son. See, so do you have the same passion for Yahweh to go out to war and fight, but then on the other end, give up what's valuable to you? See, so Yahweh stopped Abraham from slaying his son. His ticket and our ticket was in the thicket. But the test let Abraham see that yes, he indeed was a friend of Yahweh. He indeed passed the test. And the same thing was rebellious son. If a son is this rebellious against the Torah, against the love and the instructions of Yahweh, will the parent slay their own son? Their forefather Abraham had the heart. He did it in his heart. He did it. But what it really points to is that Yahweh did not hold back the knife from his son. And if you look at this, in the law of the rebellious son, or actually look at the laws of idolatry and blasphemy, the person gets hung on a tree. And when they get hung on a tree, they also get stoned. Most people do not know that not only did Yahweh Shua hang on the tree, but he also was stoned. So just during the Passover sacrifice, this tree was right along the road, right on down to to the holy city. So they would come with the lambs on their shoulders, look at the charges of blasphemy that was put over top of Yahweh Shua's head, lay down their lamb, take up the stones right there, and hit them with stones. And then pick up their lamb and continue on down to the Passover sacrifice. Isn't that just gut-wrenching to think about that? They didn't realize that the one they were stoning was the Pesach that the sheep on their shoulders was representing. And you talking about how many tens of thousands of people came down that road and pelted him with stones as they went by. Yahweh Shua was a ruddy heifer, bloody mess. Diamonds out there who's following this word are getting it. It's hitting in your heart. And this law of the rebellious son speaks to what Yahweh allowed his son to go through. But in the rebellious son, the son is guilty. Was Yahweh Shua? We're going to talk about that. So going forward, these Torah portions are in order, not haphazardly. The entire Torah is divinely inspired. If you remember, we talked about in Torah portions 27, 28, and 29, how it flowed. It went from talking about childbirth, then leprosy, and then death. All the laws of childbirth, leprosy, and death, they all pointed to Yahweh Shua. We see that Yahweh Shua was deemed as smitten. He was deemed as smitten. And I dropped the knowledge on you that Yahweh Shua was an albino, a pure albino. And that's why he said, you're going to say, look, physician, heal yourself. And he also had a limp, like Jacob. He did not fit the box that we put our Messiah in. He fit no one's box. Anyone following Yahweh Shua followed him because they loved him. It was certainly not the way he looked. Yahweh did not want his man to be followed for any other reason other than they loved him. And they chose to be with him because of the power of his love and his words. Now the Torah goes on to talk about property, but I want to read specifically in Deuteronomy 22 and verse 5. Deuteronomy 22 and verse 5, and it reads, a woman will not wear anything that pertains to a man, nor will a man put on a woman's garment, because all who do so are in abomination to Yahweh, your Elohim. Now, why do I want to spend time with that? Because that is powerful. It has nothing to do with judging someone and thinking you're better than someone else. This came straight from the book. Yahweh says the rules and laws of a town, of a country, of a city, must have integrity. And we must follow these for the integrity of the nation. Now, when the devil does something, he does not going to put it out full blast in your face, because no one's going to accept poison straight up. He has to put good with it and make it look good. It's all about the packaging. He's always used Yahweh's people to bring us down. Our own people have proven to be our worst enemies. We remember decades ago, if you were as old as I am, you had the two cute little brothers crisscross, wearing the clothes backwards. And then you had LL Cool J with one leg up, one pants leg, a sweatpants leg up. You had, we were wearing the big baggy pants. You had two pairs of pants on. You have a tighter set of pants on, and then a big baggy set of pants on the outside. So you walk around with two pairs of pants on. You can see pants, a pair of regular pants. You can see the top of them with the baggy pants on the outside. And I was thinking that was just as ridiculous. I never did anything like that. And I was at the age of being able to do that. But then it got worse and worse and worse. It started slipping down worse and worse and worse. Now you start having people wear just the baggy pants. And then the baggy pants got baggier and baggier, and they start showing the underwear. And now you see man wearing underwear. And he is totally like a girl, holding his pants, running across the street with one hand holding the pants up, cell phone in the other hand, Totally defenseless. Can't save himself. Can't protect nobody. Can't help nobody because he got both his hands occupied. One of them holding up his pants. When he can just buy a regular sized pair of pants and maybe a belt. Hello. But we do these things, and now we're to the point of we wearing underwear out in the streets. When I go to stores and I go to markets, I see children wearing pajamas. It is fine and all right for people to walk around in the street going shopping at the mall with pajamas on. And we say, well, what's wrong with that? But would you have done it even in the 90s? These things I'm talking about would have been done in the 80s and the 70s. Look at this. Look at our protesting brothers and sisters in the 60s and 70s. They looked neat and trimmed and well kept. No one was tatted down in the faces. They were neat and trim. And looking better than people look like when they go to church today. When Yahweh talks about this in Deuteronomy 22, verse 5, he's talking about proper presentation of the male and the female, because it leads to all other kinds of things, which it does now. Look at the children's clothing. The little girls is too sexually provocative. With a little girl, prepubescent girl, and they have midriff shirts made from high shorts with the word pink on the top of the butt. Why have any kind of writing at all on the clothes of a child's butt? It's automatically, you look at the butt to read the words on the pants, which is covering the butt. A little 6-year-old child. Why have any words on the butt at all? All this stuff, and the color pink, which they push onto the males. The NFL, they have look at the commercial. The NFL is gay. That's what it says. And then it goes on how the NFL accepts all kinds of things. Look at Magic Johnson's son. Look at Dwayne Wade's son. Look at how you got basketball players. Forget Dennis Rodman. You got another one out now. Forget his name. Who wears a dress going to the club. You talking about real men, strong, muscular, good-looking, young millionaire men wearing dresses to the club and going out with the boys. And he's not gay. All this leads to this. Like I said, the color pink stands for abortion. Yeah, this society is blending colors, and they're blending roles and sexual experimentations and all this. And it starts with this right now. Yahweh is against mixing. Mixing. You don't mix the animals. You don't mix the clothing. You don't mix the people, because it's all for confusion. Here's something you didn't know. Let's drop this. You know how Satan goes for the weaker sex. He is a watcher. He's the chief of all watchers. And yes, he eyed out the woman in the garden for who knows how long before he decided his attack. That's how he got Adam's first wife, Lilith, to fall. And then he went after Eve. But how did he do it? We know he did it through the serpent. Well, also, likewise, it was a female serpent. He didn't beguile the male serpent. So you have a male fallen Melech, Hasatan, inside of a female serpent. That's what you had. So the beginning of mixing and gender confusion starts right there. The devil, male seed, inside of a female serpent. So this is not about judging, does not put anybody down, not saying that I'm better than anyone else, or anybody who's Hebrew going by this book is better than anyone else. But the Yahweh made man and woman, then he knows what he did. We are not to mix. Now, here's something, we're talking about diamonds. How those receiving this law, which is really instruction. The Torah is just instruction. If you love this, you're a diamond. You understand it, you get it. But even, I implore you, I'm sure you probably even miss this. Do we truly understand in verse 6? Let me read it. Deuteronomy 22, verse 6 and 7. And it reads, if a bird's nest happens to be before you along the way, in any tree or on the ground, with the young ones or eggs, with the mother sitting on young or on the eggs, you will not take the mother with the young. You will surely let the mother go and take the young for yourself, that it may be well with you and that you may prolong your days. One thing off the bat, Yahweh gave a promise that if you follow this instruction, you will prolong your days. There's only one other commandment out of 613 where Yahweh said promises that you will prolong your days. And that is the 5th commandment, to honor your father and your mother. So right off the bat, this must be something that you don't want to just read through. This must be something deeper. And it is. And let's talk about this. Can you go out right now, here right outside my window right here, could I go out and catch a bird right now? And I'm talking about using high technology, but of your own will and skills, can you catch a bird for a meal? No. Not unless you have some kind of special trap or technology or skill or whatever. But there is one way you and me can easily get a bird for a meal. And that is under these circumstances that I just read right here in Deuteronomy 22, verses 6 and 7. That is, if she is laying over her eggs or her young and protecting them. That is the only way. And what Yahweh is saying is that it's very mean-spirited and it's sinful to go ahead and use a mother's love against her. To use a mother's love to not only get the eggs, but to get her. And for what? For eggs is not going to feed a family. It's really just a light breakfast or a snack. You might be able to get a meal if you also get the mother. So you eat the mother and her eggs, then you do have a meal. So you eradicated an entire family for a temporary meal, for a temporary something for that is so small as a meal. And if you only get the eggs, then you only have a whole meal. So Yahweh says that you shoo away the mother bird, and you have to keep shooing her away until she doesn't come back. Because you don't want her to see that you've taken her family. If she keeps coming back, you leave the mother bird and the eggs alone. You leave the mother bird and the eggs alone if she keeps coming back. Now, how does this relate to us today? Just like Yahweh stopped Abraham from killing his son, this speaks to Yahweh's son. Hasatan is always, he would love to kill the Most High. The Most High Yahweh Shua created all things. He is the Word, and through him was all things created. Was nothing created but by him. How can possibly something who has a beginning and an end, who has limitations, actually kill something that's limitless, that has no days? That's Yahweh Shua. How can he possibly do it? Only this way, through love. Through the love of his people, Yahweh Shua came down here on his own volition to protect us. Now, what's supposed to happen is, Hasatan, if he went by the Torah, was supposed to leave us alone. You're supposed to shoot Yahweh Shua the bird. Now, Yahweh Shua is the mother bird. He says it in Matthew 23:37, that how often he's tried to come and protect us and cover us under his wings, and we would not stay with him. Matthew 23:37. So he used himself as an example that I'm talking about right here, to cover us and protect us. And he has come many times to protect us with his prophets. Scores and scores and scores of prophets he sent, and to give us warnings, to help us to make to teshuva and turn to Yahweh Shua. But what does Hasatan do? He continues after us, He desires to eat us all up. And he wants Yahweh Shua as well. This is why there's going to be judgment to crush his head. So I'm hoping my diamonds out there, the few of you that there are, see the deepness of this verse, that now you can share with others who, even if they did read it, wouldn't see the deepness and understanding of this. It's even deeper to me and more poignant and touching then do not boil the calf in the mother's milk. Which also makes sense. That's like saying, I'm going to beat you up and you're going to like it. You know how somebody says you're going to have no soup and you're going to like it or whatever? You're going to take the mother's calf, which of her own, she wouldn't want to give up her calf. They're all born naturally. Mothers naturally love their young. It's a natural bonding when they're young. And they would not on their own volition just give it up. So you take the calf, and then you can also take her milk to make the calf taste good. That's a sin. 3 times. Exodus 23:19, Exodus 34:26, and Deuteronomy 14:21, Yahweh says, do not boil a calf in the mother's milk. It's all about decency and understanding. It's all about having a heart and respect for life. Respect for life. And this is so touching how Yahweh is showing how much he loves us, because he did not hold back his son because of his love for us. I'm hoping that the way Yahweh gave this to me, that you receive it, to see the deepness of how much Yahweh loves us, how much he loves us, that he teaching us this in the law of the rebellious son and the law of the bird with her eggs, that this points to the deepness of his love relationship with us and how he endured the pain to reconcile us to him, even though we didn't have to do that. All of this is relevant. It's all relevant. And let's hear what Yahweh Shua has to say out of his own mouth in John 5:39 and 40. John 5:39 and 40. And it reads, you search the scriptures, talking to the scribes and Pharisees. You search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life. And these are they which testify of me. But you are not willing to come to me that you may have life. He's admonishing the scribes and Pharisees. He's saying they know and the law and they know this Torah. That's why they manipulated it and didn't even live by it. He says, you think you got life in that? I am the life. This came out of Yahweh Shua's mouth himself. It all points to me. You think you got life in studying the Torah? You think you have life in that? I am jealous of that. It points to me. I am the life. And then he says in verse 40, but you are not willing to come to me that you may have life. I'm not here week by week teaching you the Torah portions to get you saved. I'm teaching you the Torah portions to turn to Teshuvah, to Yahweh Shua, to receive Yahweh Shua, who is life. Learn this map, this roadmap, these Torah portions, which leads you to Yahweh Shua. So then, again, going down to verse 9 of chapter 23 of Deuteronomy, talks about do not mix seed. Do not mix seed. In the beginning, right after the flood of the ancient world, Shem, Ham, and Japheth agreed. And Noah was the witness to the whole world that they were supposed to be in their sections of the world they were supposed to be in. So then they made a covenant and a pact to go to where they're supposed to go to. Everyone hung around Shem's area. Everyone hung around Yahweh's chosen area. So Yahweh has his right, just like you do. If I was coming to my house and see somebody in my house and insisted on staying in my house because I was gone for a while, I went on vacation, me and my wife, my children, we were gone for a while, and I come back and they said, well, you were gone. I have a right to defend my home. Yahweh has a right, and he usurped his right to eradicate everything in Eretz Yisrael. Now, he did give the warning. Remember in Deuteronomy 20, the law of warfare says you must give the people in the land a warning first. Hey, come take my land back. Do you want to go ahead and be under us? You can stay in the land with us. If you don't, we go slaying everything. And that's what was done. This is not cruel. This is proper. This is no different than what you would do, no different than I would do in my own home. If someone refuses to leave in my property. Now, let's talk about another thing. The law of the innocent bride. This is, again, very poignant that those out there who are diamonds, who are special, who appreciates this knowledge that I'm sharing right here, those who appreciate this. I'm talking about those with the lemonade thinking, who say want to offer $500 for a diamond that was worth well over $100,000, and who didn't even want any knowledge from the Torah for a glass of lemonade. The law of the innocent bride. Now, the law of the innocent bride, in brief, is this. If the man takes on a bride and he comes into her and he detests her and he says, I have come into this woman and I detest her, for she was not a virgin. Then the father and mother has to come to her aid. Now, what do you mean? The father gets the sheets for the evidence. He takes the sheets of the evidence to the court. Who the elders are, takes to the court. If there's blood on the sheets, then indeed his daughter was a virgin. The husband has to pay a fine and he has to stay with her. He can never divorce her. Now, if there's no blood on the sheets, she gets stoned because she has played the harlot in her father's house. This speaks to upbringing. I mean, tell me, you have a daughter in the house who's been having sex and you didn't even know it right under your nose? But if she's indeed innocent, the blood will be there for proof. Now, how does that matter to you and me today? Let's go ahead and once again, you're just going to have to love Yahweh Shua. You're going to have to love him and see how it matters. He said it right here in John 5:39 and 40. That all of the book speaks to him. How does this speak to him? Let's go to John 25 and 7. The same book, John 25 and 7. Now, after the resurrection, Miriam came out and told the disciples, hey, the master is gone. He is resurrected. John and Peter runs to the tomb. John outran Peter. John was much younger. And he got there first. So we're going to pick up from right there in John 20, verses 5 through 7. And it reads, and he stooping down, talking about John, he stooping down and looking in, saw the linen cloths lying there, yet he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came, following him, and went into the tomb, and he saw the linen cloths lying there. Okay, he saw the linen cloths lying there. And the handkerchief that had been around his head, not lying with the linen cloths, but folded together in a place by itself. So now most people are just going to read on through that and keep on reading. It means it goes over their head because they don't know the Torah portions. You following me know more than those who don't read the Torah portions. You're not going to understand the end of the Bible if you don't learn the beginning of the Bible. The law of the faithful, the law of the innocent bride speaks to these verses right here. And here's what's important about it. Already, you should make you wonder, wait a minute. Yahweh Shua, okay, he came up. Now, obviously, he didn't have no clothes on. He was just like Adam and Eve. He's the second Adam. He was perfect and pure, covered in the righteousness of Yahweh. He didn't have to have no clothes on. He was righteous, just like Adam and Eve were. But why would he take the time to take the cloth off his face separately and put it away from the linen clothing? Not only that, why did he fold the cloth that was over his face? This is why. Because this proves he was judged as a rebellious son that we just read about. And he died, bloodied. But he came up, the innocent bride. Remember, he is the replacement bride. We deserve the death. He came up innocent. The blood on the cloth proves he was innocent. He was indeed, Yahweh Shua, a virgin. And isn't that touching? Isn't that touching? And Yahweh, here, thousands of years before the sacrifice of his son, he was saying, hello, this means something. This means something. You're going to see what it means. It's again the Ya'ad. Ya'ad is agreement. Remember, I talked about Ya'ad. It's the hand partially open. And the more you open the hand, the more is revealed what is in the hand. And that's what this is. This is part of the revelation of his son. I hope that touched your heart as it touched mine as I studied this thing and read this thing. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. And you're not going to Google that anywhere. Thumb scholars, keep your thumbs to yourself because you're not going to find that anywhere. I did not get it from Google. Yahweh Shua HaMashiach Barak me with that understanding and knowledge. Now, more laws go on in chapter 23. It talks about the emasculated genitals, no man who is emasculated. Now this, I never heard a preacher preach against vasectomies. They always talk about how a woman is not supposed to do this, not supposed to do that. But this speaks against vasectomies, and there's a lot of preachers out there preaching with vasectomies. You're not supposed to emasculate your testicles. Thankfully, we're not in the Holy Land. We're not in the Kodesh land. It doesn't really matter over here. You cannot keep the 613 anyway. But just for the record's sake, there it is. All right? Because Yah made man to, as long as he lived, he's healthy, normal, to be able to produce seed. Because the legal law comes through the man. Grace comes through the woman. That's why, and grace doesn't last forever. That's why she doesn't produce eggs forever. Because grace does, you cannot just keep sinning and sinning and sinning and sinning and think you're going to get into heaven, as our Christian brothers like to tell us. So egg releasing has a limitation because the woman represents grace. The man represents the law. The law does last forever because the law, which means instructions, all point to Yahweh Shua. And Yahweh Shua is going to last forever. He ain't never going to die. So long as a man lives, he doesn't emasculate his testicles, he can produce. Again, was that deep? Was it deep? Hallelujah. Now, and then verses 3 to 6 talks about how we're supposed to, the law of the Ammonite and the Moabite takes 10 generations to get their sin out. Because remember, they came about with incest from the daughter and the father. So 10 generations eradicates that. 10 generations of keeping Torah. This is how we got Ruth, the Moabitess. She was after the 10th generation. She had a humble heart with Naomi, and she converted to the Hebrew way of life. She received the covenant of Yahweh. So she was pure, and we know 3 generations later, we get Dawid, who is the physical manifestation of HaMashiach. He will be the physical manifestation. Yahweh Shua he will be the person of Yahweh Shua in the flesh in the millennial kingdom, coming from a Moabitess. Now today we know these are the Japanese, the Ammonites are the Japanese. The Moabites are the Chinese. And to this day, they hate you. So Yahweh hates those who hate you. So you got 10 generations of them following the instructions for them to be able to worship with you. That's in the book, chapter 23, verses 3 to 6. Now also, there's laws on how to interact with your brother. We're not supposed to hate our brother. In verse 7 and 8, Yahweh says, do not abhor the Edomite, because he is your brother. 3 generations of them teshuvah and humbling, then they can worship with you. Only 3 generations. But they have to be under you. No Edomite is coming to worship you to be your head, to teach you the Torah. If he wants to be under you, and he's humble, then he can come worship with you. The same thing with the Hamites. Why? Because they saved our lives. Yahweh saved our lives through them. We were in the desert, hungry. They kept us. So Yahweh says 3 generations, they can worship with you. But once again, they have to be under you. They cannot come into the temple or wherever you worship and be teaching you. That's the Hamites. And so this is in the book. And what I'm seeing too often on social media is us blasting the white man, blasting the red man, blasting us. We need to stop that. That's Lashon Hara. That leads to, those curses leads to you being cursed. Stop with this anger. You learned who you were. You learned where you come from. You learned things. Yes, we've been lied to. Okay, get over it. Move on. Learn, live, and then teach. Stop fussing, cussing, and blasting people, especially on social media. You're wrong. Now we're going to wrap it up with the slave, the runaway slave in verses 15 through 16. Any slave that escapes his master and comes to us is supposed to be able to stay with us. That's right. Chapter 23, verses 15 and 16. Now, they also, not only that, they have a right to choose what land they want to live in. Is this what happened for our forefathers here in America? Runaway slaves were hunted down with bloodhounds. And if they weren't and were brought back and whipped, they would have their feet broken. And that was the good stuff. A lot of times they just end up stringing us up and hanging us. They did not let us go free. There will be a judgment day. The runaway slave who escapes and goes into Yahweh's people are supposed to be free. That's not what happened to our forefathers here in this land, and they will pay for that. Now going on to the 24th and final chapter of When You Go, the 49th Torah portion, talks about the laws of divorce. Now, remember, Moshe in Deuteronomy is speaking as a prophet. He is the greatest prophet of all time, the greatest prophet born of man and a woman. The first 4 books, Moshe was speaking as the oracle. Moshe was the literal, Yahweh spoke through the body of Moshe. Moshe was the physical boundaries and borders of the word of Yahweh. But here in Deuteronomy, it is he speaking under inspiration of Ruach HaKodesh like any prophet. But he is the chief and greatest of all prophets. So here in this law of divorce, he did permit divorce. But this is because of the hearts of Israel. First of all, they want to claim, well, you had 2 wives. Well, he did. He was given his first wife for conquest and war, but he never consummated it with her. So yeah, technically they were right, but they really were wrong because he never consummated with her. Moshe had 1 wife that he laid with all his life. But because they wanted to pull him out on the technicality, he allowed him to have more than 1 wife, and they also gave him these laws for divorce. One of the laws is a man cannot divorce a woman and then she goes out to be another man's wife, and then he come back to her. This is filthy, Yahweh says. And it's also like testing partners. You know, men go ahead and marry and get divorced, trying out different women under the guise of a marriage. Which was really happening is filthiness. Then it goes on and talks about laws of collateral, kidnapping, leprosy. We talked about leprosy. Lashon Hara speaks to non-visible sins, and it's going to be manifested in Surat, in leprosy, and different blotches on the skin or whatever, even in the clothing and even in the home. So watch what you say in your secret time, even watch what you're thinking. It's going to show in your face and in your body. Yahweh talks about the dignity of the lender and the 40 stripes in the last chapter. No, I said chapter 24 is the last chapter. Chapter 25 is the last chapter. Verses 1 through 3. 40 stripes is written out 40 stripes. The reading of it says with stripes leading to 40, which means 39 stripes. Once again, that speaks to Yahweh Shua, because Yahweh Shua indeed received all 40 stripes. Wow. Talks about not muzzling an ox when treading the grain, and so forth. So that is it for this Torah portion. Is amazing. Next week, Torah portion number 50, Ki Tavo, when you enter. It's going to be in Deuteronomy 26, verse 1 through 29, verse 8. talk about the ceremony of first fruits, tithings, the blessings and curses of the law. My diamonds out there, Shalom Aleichem, peace be on you. Tune into this. Look for the a week later for the professionally edited version of this to get a greater understanding. Shalom Aleichem, peace be on you.